The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council sparkled with lights that danced off crystalline walls. Emily Adams stood at the entrance, her heart beating fast as thousands of alien eyes turned to look at her. She was the first human chosen to represent Earth at the Council, and her credentials as a xenobiologist had earned her this position. The Council chamber held beings from over 50 different species. Some floated in the air like bright clouds, others walked on multiple legs, and a few seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. Emily straightened her blue uniform and walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. "Welcome, Representative Adams," announced the head council member, a being made of pure light, who called himself First Light. His voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We have waited long to have a human join our ranks." Emily noticed something odd as she walked to her assigned seat. The alien representatives were following her movement with unusual intensity. Some even leaned forward in their seats, their sensory organs, whatever passed for eyes among their species, fixed on her every move. The wave people, who existed as patterns of pure energy, rippled with colors Emily had never seen before when she passed near them. The bright ones, crystalline beings who usually maintained strict postures, turned like flowers following the sun as she walked by. During the first break in the council session, Emily found herself surrounded by alien diplomats. They all wanted to speak with her, their translators working overtime as they competed for her attention. "Your genetic structure fascinates us," hummed a wave person, its form shifting through shades of blue and gold. "Would you consider sharing your biological data with our scientists?" Before Emily could answer, a bright one stepped forward, its crystal body catching the light. "We offer you access to our knowledge chambers. 10,000 years of cosmic wisdom, just for a moment of your time." Emily felt overwhelmed. She backed away slowly, bumping into someone behind her. Turning around, she found herself face to face with another human. The sight of him was like finding an oasis in a desert. "Looks like you could use a rescue," he said with a warm smile. "I'm James Miller, Earth's diplomatic attaché." Emily had never felt so relieved to see another human being. "Emily Adams," she replied, grateful for the normal interaction. "And yes, please rescue me." James smoothly inserted himself between Emily and the crowd of eager aliens. "Sorry, everyone. Earth protocol requires all new representatives to complete their orientation first. Council rules, you understand." The aliens backed away reluctantly, though they continued to watch from a distance. James led Emily to a quiet corner of the chamber. "Is it always like this?" Emily asked, finally able to breathe normally. James shook his head. "No, this is new. I've been here 6 months, and I've never seen them act this way. Something about you has really got their attention." Emily looked around the room, noticing how the aliens were still watching her, their bodies oriented in her direction despite engaging in other conversations. "I'm just a xenobiologist," she said. "There's nothing special about me." "Well, they seem to think otherwise," James replied, his brown eyes showing concern. "Be careful, Emily. The politics here can get complicated. These beings are advanced beyond our imagination, and they always have multiple motives for everything they do." As if to prove his point, a small floating drone approached them, projecting the image of First Light. "Representative Adams, the Council requests your presence at tonight's gathering of species. Your attendance is expected." After the drone departed, James let out a low whistle. "That's new too. They've never invited a human to the gathering before." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. She had studied alien species for years, but being the center of their attention was entirely different from observing them. Something was happening here, something bigger than she understood. "Would you?" She hesitated, then continued. "Would you mind coming with me to this gathering? I could use a friendly face." James smiled, and for the first time since arriving at the council, Emily felt truly at ease. "Of course," he said. "That's what fellow humans are for." Neither of them noticed the ripple of reaction that passed through the alien observers when they smiled at each other, or the urgent messages being sent between species about this interesting development. The gathering of species transformed the council's great hall into a swirling display of light and color. Emily stood beside James, watching as alien beings moved through the space in ways that defied Earth physics. Her scientific mind struggled to process everything she saw. "Remember," James whispered, "don't accept any direct offers from anyone. Everything here is a political move." Before Emily could respond, First Light appeared before them, his brilliant form dimmed to avoid overwhelming their human eyes. "Representative Adams, we have prepared a special demonstration for you." The center of the hall cleared, and three bright ones moved forward. Their crystalline bodies merged into a single towering structure that pulsed with rainbow light. The sight was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "We offer you transformation." The merged beings spoke as one. "Join with us, and your human form will evolve. You will become immortal, powerful beyond imagination. Your consciousness will expand to touch the stars themselves." Emily felt a pull toward them, an almost hypnotic attraction, but James's steady presence beside her helped her stay focused. "I thank you for the offer, but I need time to consider such a significant change." The bright ones separated, their disappointment visible in the dimming of their light. But before they could move away, the wave people surged forward, their energy forms creating patterns that made Emily's eyes water. "We offer something greater," they sang in harmonic voices. "Leave behind the limits of physical form. Join us in pure energy. Experience existence as light and thought." James stepped closer to Emily, his arm barely touching hers. The simple human contact helped her resist the dizzying display before her. "Again, I thank you, but this requires careful consideration." Throughout the evening, more species approached. The Mist Dwellers offered to share their collective consciousness. The Deep Ones promised knowledge of the universe's greatest secrets. Each offer was more extravagant than the last. During a brief moment of peace, Emily and James found themselves in a quiet corner. A server drone had provided them with what appeared to be Earth-style drinks. "This is insane," Emily said, taking a sip of what tasted almost like coffee. "Why are they all so interested in me? There are billions of humans on Earth." James looked thoughtful. "I have a theory. Have you noticed how they react when we interact?" Emily shook her head, but as she watched the aliens around them, she began to see what he meant. Every time she and James spoke or moved close to each other, the alien showed signs of intense interest. "Watch this," James said. He told her a simple joke about Earth weather, making her laugh. The reaction in the hall was immediate. Several species moved closer, their sensing organs focused on their interaction. "They're fascinated by how we connect," Emily realized. "But why?" Before James could answer, a new group approached them. These aliens looked like shifting mirrors, reflecting everything around them. The mirror people were known for their ability to copy and improve upon anything they encountered. "We can offer you perfection," they said in voices that echoed like crystal. "We have studied your form, your patterns. Join us, and we will make you flawless." Emily felt exhausted. Each offer seemed designed to tempt her deepest desires, yet something felt wrong about all of them. She looked at James, saw the concern in his very human eyes, and made a decision. "I appreciate all these generous offers," she announced, her voice carrying across the hall. "But I need time to understand my role here first. I hope you all understand." The aliens withdrew, but their attention remained fixed on her. James guided her toward the exit, both of them feeling the weight of countless alien gazes. "You handled that well," he said as they reached the door. "But this is just the beginning. They won't give up easily." Emily nodded, knowing he was right. She had come to the council to study alien life, but instead she had become the subject of their study. As she left with James, she couldn't shake the feeling that something unprecedented was unfolding, and she was at the center of it. Behind them, The aliens began sending encrypted messages across the galaxy. The human female had shown unexpected resistance to their offers, and her connection to the human male was proving to be an unforeseen complication. The council chamber buzzed with tension during the third week of Emily's assignment. She sat at her designated spot, trying to focus on the trade agreement being discussed, but she could feel the undercurrent of alien politics swirling around her. First Light's voice filled the chamber. "We propose a special committee to study human emotional responses. Representative Adams would, of course, be the primary subject." Emily felt her stomach tighten. Before she could respond, another voice cut through the chamber. The Wave People's representative rippled with aggressive patterns. "The Bright Ones cannot claim exclusive access to human studies. We have already prepared our own research facilities." James, sitting at his smaller desk behind the main representatives, caught Emily's eye and subtly shook his head. She understood his warning. This wasn't about scientific research at all. Perhaps, a mirror person suggested, their surface reflecting chaotic patterns, Representative Adams would consider a rotating schedule among our species. Each group could have dedicated time for cultural exchange. Emily stood up, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "While I appreciate the scientific interest in humanity, I must remind the Council that I am here as a diplomatic representative, not a research subject." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien languages. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. Emily noticed how different species were forming clusters, their behaviors indicating political alliances being formed and broken in real time. During the midday recess, James found Emily in the observatory, one of the few quiet places in the council building. She was watching Earth's distant sun, a tiny point of light among millions. "They're using you as a bargaining chip," he said, joining her at the window. "Every species wants to claim they have special influence over humanity." Emily turned to him, noticing how the starlight reflected in his eyes. "I thought I was prepared for alien politics, but this is beyond anything I expected." "Watch out for the next few days," James warned. "I've heard rumors about—" A soft chime interrupted him. A holographic message appeared before Emily. "The Collective of Deep Ones requests your presence at a private consultation." James's expression darkened. "Don't go alone. The Deep Ones are masters of psychological manipulation. They can make you see and feel things that aren't real." "I can't avoid them forever," Emily said. "But would you come with me?" He smiled, and Emily felt that now familiar warmth in her chest. "Of course. Someone has to keep you from being turned into a being of pure energy or whatever they're offering today." The Deep One's chamber was located in the lowest level of the council building. The walls seemed to pulse with organic patterns, and the air felt thick with unseen presence. "Welcome, Representative Adams," multiple voices spoke in perfect unison. "And Diplomatic Attaché Miller. We had hoped for a private audience." Emily stood her ground. "James stays. All meetings with Earth representatives must have proper diplomatic oversight." The air grew heavier. Emily felt pressure in her mind, images trying to form, visions of power, of knowledge, of transcendence. But James's presence beside her acted like an anchor, keeping her thoughts clear. "You resist our communion," the Deep Ones observed. "Yet you allow this simple human to influence you. Curious. Perhaps we have miscalculated." The pressure subsided. Emily and James left the chamber, both feeling drained. In the elevator back to the upper levels, Emily found herself standing closer to James than necessary, drawing comfort from his proximity. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here." He turned to face her, and for a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt charged with something that had nothing to do with alien politics. The elevator door opened, breaking the moment. They stepped out to find the corridor filled with representatives from various species, all trying to appear as if they hadn't been waiting for Emily's return. "Another day in galactic politics," James murmured. Emily squared her shoulders, ready to face another round of proposals and manipulations. But now she was certain of one thing. Amid all the alien power plays and politics, she had found something real in her growing connection with James. The aliens might not understand it, but that made it all the more precious. Alarms blared through the council building, their sound pulsing in a pattern that made Emily's teeth ache. She ran down the curved corridor, her heart pounding. The message she'd received from James had been brief but urgent. They're planning to take you. Meet me at Docking Bay 7. Hurry. Behind her, she could hear the musical tones of the Bright One's pursuit and feel the electric charge of the Wave People's approach. The entire council had erupted into chaos when the Mirror People had announced their intent to form a permanent bond with her, without her consent. Emily reached the docking bay, gasping for breath. James stood beside a small transport ship, its engines already humming to life. "Quick," he called out, extending his hand. "They're trying to lock down all exits." As Emily reached for him, a wall of shimmering energy materialized between them. The combined forces of 3 alien species filled the docking bay. "This behavior is unacceptable," First Light announced, his brilliant form pulsing with what seemed like anger. "Representative Adams must participate in the bonding ceremony. The council has voted." Emily backed away from the energy barrier. "You can't vote on what happens to my body. That's not within the council's authority." The Mirror People moved forward, their reflective surfaces showing distorted versions of Emily. "We have studied you extensively. Our analysis shows a 99.9% probability that joining with us will optimize your existence. Your resistance is illogical," the Wave People added, their forms creating dizzying patterns in the air. "We offer transcendence beyond your limited human understanding." James's voice cut through the alien chorus. "Emily, the ship's emergency protocols can break through the barrier, but I'll lose my diplomatic status. Everything I've worked for." Emily looked at him, seeing the determination in his eyes, despite the cost he faced. Before she could respond, she felt a strange tingling throughout her body. "The extraction has begun," the Mirror People announced. "Your DNA will be preserved and enhanced." Emily fought against the pulling sensation as her cells began to vibrate at an atomic level. Through the haze of pain, she saw James slam his hand onto the ship's control panel. A burst of energy pulsed from the ship, disrupting the alien technologies. The barrier fell, and James rushed forward, catching Emily as her legs gave out. "This is an act of war," First Light declared, his form blazing so bright that the humans had to shield their eyes. James helped Emily into the ship. "No, this is an act of protection. Check your own laws." Forced bonding was outlawed by the Council 10,000 years ago. The ship's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Emily saw more alien representatives arriving, their forms mixing and merging as they tried to stop the launch. "Hold on," James said, his hands flying over the controls. The ship shot forward, breaking through the docking bay's atmospheric shield and into open space. As the council station shrank behind them, Emily finally caught her breath. They were really going to do it. They were going to change me against my will. James set the autopilot and turned to her. "I couldn't let that happen, even if it means I can never return to diplomatic service." Emily reached out, touching his hand. The simple human contact felt more real and precious than all the alien promises of transcendence. "Where can we go?" "They'll follow us. Earth has secret outposts in the outer rim. We can hide there until this blows over. The Council can't risk a direct confrontation with humanity. They need our emotional capacity too much." As their ship accelerated toward distant stars, Emily looked at James. "You gave up everything to help me." He smiled, and in that smile, she saw something the aliens could never understand with all their advanced technology. Some things are worth more than diplomatic status. Behind them, the Council erupted into chaos as different species argued over the humans' escape. None of them could comprehend why their perfect offers had been rejected, or why 2 humans would risk everything to remain exactly what they were: beautifully, perfectly human. Emergency signals lit up the ship's console, but James and Emily paid them no attention. They had made their choice, and for the first time since arriving at the council, they both felt truly free. The outpost on Proxima B hung like a silver teardrop in space. Inside, Emily sat in the station's observation dome, watching the strange red light of the nearby star paint patterns across the floor. 2 weeks had passed since their escape from the council. James entered the dome, carrying 2 cups of real Earth coffee, a luxury they'd found in the outpost's emergency supplies. The council sent another message. They're offering full pardons if we return. Emily took her cup, letting the warmth seep into her hands. They still don't understand why we left, do they? No, James said, settling beside her. But I've been analyzing the data we brought with us. I think I finally know why they were so obsessed with you, with humans in general. He activated a holographic display, showing comparing scans of different species' neural patterns. Look at this. Alien species experience emotions, but they're simple, pure. Each feeling exists in isolation. Emily leaned forward, her scientific curiosity sparked. And humans, our emotions are complex networks. Joy mixed with sadness, love tangled with fear. They can't comprehend how we process multiple feelings at once. It's like trying to explain color to a species that only sees in black and white. That's why they wanted to change me, Emily realized. They weren't trying to improve me. They were trying to understand how I could exist as I am. James nodded. Every species that approached you was actually trying to simplify you. The bright ones would have stripped away your emotional complexity to make you pure. The wave people would have reduced you to basic energy patterns. Emily thought about all the grand promises they'd made. They thought they were offering me perfection, but they would have destroyed what makes you human in the process. James looked at her intently. What makes us human? A comfortable silence fell between them. Outside, the red dwarf star cast its eternal twilight over the station. Emily found herself studying James's profile, noting how the starlight softened his features. When I was in the council, she said softly, every alien could offer me something amazing. Immortality, unlimited knowledge, godlike power, but none of them could offer me what I feel right now, just sitting here with you. James turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. And what's that? Everything at once. I'm nervous about the future, excited to be here, worried about Earth, happy to be with you, scared of what might happen next. And somehow all those feelings make perfect sense together. That's what they couldn't replicate, James said. The beautiful mess of human emotion. A warning light flashed on the dome's control panel. Emily checked the readout. 3 council ships just entered the system. James stood up, but didn't move toward the door. Instead, he held out his hand to Emily. We could keep running. There are other outposts, other places to hide. Emily took his hand, feeling that complex surge of emotions that made her purely, perfectly human. Or we could face them, help them understand that they don't need to change us to study us. It would be dangerous, James warned. They might not listen. But that's what makes it worthwhile, isn't it? The uncertainty, the risk, the hope. Emily smiled. All these feelings at once. James pulled her to her feet, and they stood close together, watching the approaching ships through the dome's transparent panels. Ready to teach some aliens about human emotions? He asked. Emily squeezed his hand. They've been studying us all wrong. They can't understand human feelings by taking us apart or changing us. They need to see how we live with them, how we grow through them. The council ships grew larger in the viewport, their alien designs glowing against the starfield. Emily and James stood together, 2 humans about to explain the inexplicable to beings who had mastered space and time but couldn't understand the complexity of a single human heart. Whatever happens, Emily said, we face it as we are. No transformations, no transcendence, just wonderfully complicated humans. James smiled, and in that smile was every emotion the aliens had tried to separate and study. I wouldn't have it any other way. The council ships landed at the outpost's docking bay, their alien designs contrasting sharply with the human architecture. Emily and James stood in the airlock chamber, watching as representatives from every major species filed in. First light's brilliance filled the room. Representative Adams, Attaché Miller, you have caused quite the disturbance in galactic politics. You left us no choice, Emily replied, standing straight. You were going to force me to change against my will. The mirror people moved forward, their surfaces showing fragmented reflections of the humans. We have reconsidered our approach. We offer you both a final choice. Wave people swirled around them, their energy forms creating complex patterns. Join with any species of your choosing. Both of you, together. We will not separate you. Emily felt James tense beside her. This was new. The aliens had never offered to transform them both before. Think carefully, the Deep Ones whispered. Immortality, power, knowledge, all while keeping your connection. Emily looked around the room at the assembled aliens, each powerful beyond human imagination. Then she looked at James, seeing in his eyes the same emotion she felt. You still don't understand, she said, addressing all of them. Every offer you make tries to change what we are, but being human isn't a flaw that needs fixing. James stepped forward. You've been studying humanity like scientists looking at specimens under a microscope. But you can't understand us by taking us apart. Emily touched his hand, and the simple gesture caused ripples of reaction among the aliens. Look at this, she said. Just this touch. I feel comfort, support, attraction, nervousness, hope, all at once. Can any of you experience that complexity? The aliens were silent, their various sensing organs focused on the point where the humans' hands met. Your emotional capacity is inefficient, First Light stated, but his tone held uncertainty. It creates confusion, conflict. Yes, Emily agreed. And that's exactly what makes it beautiful. We don't want perfection. We want the mess and the mystery and the wonder of being human. The wave people surged forward. This is your final chance. Choose transcendence or remain limited. Emily looked at James, and in that look was every complex emotion that made humans unique in the galaxy. He nodded, understanding without words. We choose humanity, they said together. The room erupted in alien communications, their various languages creating a storm of sound and light. First Light raised his form, commanding silence. You would reject godhood to remain as you are? He asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Emily stepped forward, still holding James's hand. Let me explain something about humans. We don't need to become gods because we already have something more precious. The ability to feel everything, to grow, to change naturally, to connect with each other in ways you can't imagine. Your species will die, the mirror people stated. You will remain mortal. James smiled. But we'll live more fully in our short lives than your species have in millennia of existence. That's what you've been trying to understand about us. The aliens conferred among themselves, their forms shifting and merging as they communicated. Finally, First Light approached the humans. We have failed to comprehend humanity by trying to change it, he admitted. Perhaps we should learn to understand you as you are. Emily felt hope rising in her chest, mixed with caution, excitement, and just a touch of fear, a perfectly human cocktail of emotions. Does this mean you'll stop trying to transform us? The council representatives moved back, creating space around the humans. We withdraw all offers of transcendence, First Light declared. Humanity will remain under its own protection, free to develop as it chooses. As the aliens filed back to their ships, Emily and James stood in the airlock, watching them leave. They had faced down the most powerful beings in the galaxy and won, not through force or technology, but through the simple truth of their humanity. Ready to go home? James asked. Emily looked at him, feeling every wonderful, complicated emotion that made her human. As long as we go together. Behind them, the aliens watched, finally beginning to understand that what they had seen as humanity's greatest weakness was actually its greatest strength. The Great Hall of the United Earth Embassy gleamed under Earth's natural sunlight. 1 year had passed since the confrontation at the outpost, and everything had changed. Emily stood at a window, watching as ships from across the galaxy landed for the historic ceremony. Nervous? James asked, joining her at the window. He wore his diplomatic uniform, now adorned with the new insignia of Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. Emily smiled, smoothing her white dress. A little. Actually, a lot. Mixed with excitement, joy, and about 10 other emotions I couldn't explain to an alien if I tried. They're trying to understand, though, James said, pointing to the arriving delegates. Look. Through the window, they could see alien representatives studying human couples in the garden below. Instead of trying to change or improve humans, they were simply observing, learning, taking notes on human interactions. First Light appeared in the embassy's greeting area, his brilliance carefully adjusted to comfortable human levels. The council is honored to witness this human bonding ceremony. We have been studying your wedding traditions with great interest. Emily turned to face him. And what have you learned? That we were wrong, First Light admitted. We thought human emotion was a disadvantage. Now we see it as the source of your species' greatest achievements. The ceremony hall filled with beings from across the galaxy. Wave people floated near the ceiling, their energy forms creating gentle light shows. The mirror people positioned themselves to reflect the sunlight in beautiful patterns. Even the deep ones had emerged from their usual seclusion to attend. As Emily walked down the aisle toward James, she felt every eye, sensor, and alien observing organ fixed on them. But for once, their attention didn't feel invasive. They watched with respect, even wonder. The human official began the ceremony, speaking of love and commitment in terms that would have seemed primitive to these advanced beings a year ago. Now they listened intently, their various translation devices working to capture every nuance. The couple has prepared their own vows, the official announced. James spoke first, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Emily, I choose you with every complex emotion humans are capable of feeling. I love you not despite our imperfections, but because of them. Our mortality makes every moment precious. Our uncertainty makes every discovery wonderful. Our humanity makes everything real. Emily's voice shook slightly as she responded, a tremor that made the aliens lean forward in fascination. James, you showed me that being human isn't something to transcend. It's something to cherish. I choose you, and I choose us, with all the beautiful complexity that comes with being human. As they exchanged rings, a concept that had particularly intrigued the alien delegates, First Light moved forward. The council has prepared a gift, he announced, not to change you, but to honor what you are. A soft light filled the hall, and for a moment, every being present could feel what the humans felt. The aliens gasped, overwhelmed by the complexity of emotion. The light faded quickly, but its impact remained. That First Light said softly is why we now study humanity not as something to improve, but as something to understand. The ceremony concluded with a kiss, and the alien delegates watched in fascination as the simple human gesture carried more meaning than all their advanced technologies combined. At the reception, humans and aliens mingled freely. The wave people tried dancing, the mirror people attempted to capture the taste of wedding cake, and the deep ones engaged in surprisingly good small talk. Emily and James stood together, watching their two worlds unite in celebration. Think they'll ever fully understand us? Emily asked. James pulled her close. Probably not. But maybe that's the point. Some things aren't meant to be fully understood. They're meant to be felt. As they danced under the stars, aliens and humans watching in respectful wonder, a new chapter began. Humanity had proven that its greatest strength lay not in transcending its nature, but in embracing it, with all its beautiful, complex, imperfect glory. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, Other species began to wonder if perhaps they had been pursuing perfection when they should have been pursuing something far more precious: the ability to feel, to love, and to be wonderfully, completely human.